hey, 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 nibi wabo and I am aki miskwi nibi wabo hey, 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 nibi wabo and I am aki miskwi nibi wabo hey, 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 nibi wabo and I am aki miskwi nibi wabo hey, 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 Blessings to the sacred waters of life.
Thank you, darling.
Most welcome.
Oh, Bella, so beautiful to have you here. Thank you for making your way up the mountain to be with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's beautiful to be here.
And we got various roads we can travel in this conversation. But I just want to set the foundation with the intention to honor the way that you are in the world. It's a really beautiful thing where we can have, a screen as an interface between people, but still be able to palpably sense that person's heart. And you are one of those incredible humans. Your spirit, your soul, your work in this world is so devoted to honesty, and you can feel it. And that's why Cody and I are honored to have you come and weave some of that within the work that we're doing in our practitioner training. So my question really is, how did you make your way to the place within yourself where you realized you weren't intimate, or you weren't honest, or you weren't able to stay with yourself? Like, what was that for you?
Good question. First, I just want to say thank you for seeing me. I feel touched. The place that called me inwards was pain. Yeah, it was a really difficult breakup, where it was the first time in my life that I was kind of forced to engage with such discomfort in my body and in my mind, and rumination and fixation, and where that led me was initially in an attempt to fix what I thought was an issue. And that was a kind of a journey in itself, a big chapter of just trying to understand what was going on for me. And that, you know, through many different doors and teachers and therapists and workshops, led me to this point of recognizing, I need to get into my body. I'm trying to tackle this problem with my mind, and so that slowly set me on the journey of you know, descending into my body. And there I recognized, I don't want to stay. I don't want to be here. Like I will do backflips and tell myself lies and tell you lies and play ignorant, all to avoid being here in my body and staying. And I got more and more honest about that. The initiation was pain, like it is for many people.
Seems to be the way. I second that.
Yeah.
Cody, did you want to ask anything on the back of that?
I feel like, as we just stated there, that's like the entry point for so many people. What was it that gifted you the courage to be like, this is where the work's at. I really need to be here, although I don't want to be here. What was it that, if there was something that gifted you that strength and that courage to arrive and like stay? Was it someone? Was it something? Was there any moment that was like, you know what? You know, I've seen it happen, you know, so much that people do arrive, and as you said, then they're like, whoa, I don't want to be here. And it takes a few backwards and forwards. It takes a bit. They like touch in, escape again, touch in, escape. Was there anything in particular that was like that time that was like, you know what, this time no more bailing on myself. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be with this. I'm going to tend to what needs to be tended to.
A few moments come to me. Yeah. Significant moments, like a initial moment, like way at the start when I was just first time seeing therapist and working ongoing with a therapist, and you know, the reflection of like, it's difficult for you to feel, and me like trying to get in my body with an agenda, trying to force myself, like, come on, like, just open. And the one thing she said to me was, there's a reason it's hard for you to feel. And for some reason, because of how available I was in that moment, and it just landed and it cracked me. And I was on her couch for 2 hours crying like I've never opened before, grieving, with just completely surrendered to the grief in my body, not knowing what was going on, my mind just trusting, and the relief of letting go, the relief of essentially having compassion for myself, where I avoided being kind and having compassion for myself for a long time, tactically. That was a big moment. And I was in Melbourne at the time at university studying architecture, you know, partying a lot and just escaping myself. It was very difficult for me to be alone. And then I just had a hit that I wanted to go on exchange. And then I went to Barcelona. I felt like I want to go there. And it was like the first time in my life that I was was still at uni, but I just had no desire to engage with. I didn't want to make friends. I was like, oh, this is for me. It was very new for me to just. And I was listening to, podcasts, and it was the first time I heard what a shaman was in a podcast. And I was like, shaman, Barcelona, not even knowing what a shaman was. And then I found this woman, this older Mongolian woman. I called her and I said, I want to have a session, not knowing what I was getting myself into. Yeah. And then I ended up for that 4 months having weekly, going to her home, her apartment, and having sessions with her. And she, we'd journey and do breath work together. And there was one really deep journey. And I remember again opening really wide and surrendering and just kind of having this moment of like, I grew up in Bali. I grew up around a lot of people that, followed gurus and practiced yoga and had different paths. And it was like a moment where I kind of understood, like, my weird friends that had been following a guru since they were 16, and my, why the importance of breath is emphasized, like simple things, like just kind of this moment of like, wow, like, a small kind of waking up and softening through kindness and compassion. Yeah, and many kind of stories now that I've started on this train. I can feel like pivotal moments of kind of reminding me, openness, supporting me to stay, supporting me to soften, let down my guard, and through that, kind of engaging with the wisdom of my heart, my soul, and then that being the guidance towards the next step. Mm-hmm. And now I was saying recently, like now it's like whether I like it or not, I'm on this path. Like, it's like a choiceless choice. Yeah. I'm devoted from somewhere quite deep. Yeah. And appreciating that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. It's that sense like you could choose to do something else, but it would be insufferable.
Yeah.
Everything in me is willing me to walk this path.
Oh, good, yeah.
I think that actually, that's really beautiful to hear, and I think can help people soften a little bit too around, as you said, it was like at the beginning almost like a forcefulness of like, get in and here, and this is where I need to be. But as we come to discover, as we, walk this journey, it does happen when it's ready to happen too. If, and what can help that is placing ourselves in the right environment, and obviously you're saying like, I was seeing a therapist, I was in the right field. Even when we're in the right field, we can still be trying to force something and get frustration. I see this often. I've worked with people for a really long time. They're like, I'm just not breaking through. I'm not breaking down, or why? And they just beat themselves up. I'm like, it's okay. You're in the right place. Just like persistence, like just stay the course. And it's like those moments are often, the most magical ones in our life, is that unfolding, that unraveling, that undoing, that touching, that spot happens sometimes when we're least expecting it, right? It clicks in. One moment it clicks in. And I feel like that can help, just speaking to that can help relieve so much unnecessary anxiety for people. Right. Because they often meet it with, well, everyone else is doing this and I need to break through. And sometimes in workshops or even in, retreat spaces or, healing containers, where others are having breakthroughs and, really letting go, and they're like, why can't I? And I'm really pushing for it. It's so nice to meet it with that energy of, when it's time, it will be, and I'll be ready for that.
Yes.
But I'm just going to keep putting myself in the right place, offering myself the opportunity for that to occur when the time is right, you know. And then that unraveling comes, and it's almost like there was a period of time in our lives that we needed to find, you know, and start to cultivate that strength and that courage and that all that we needed for that time when it does all undo and the unraveling comes. It's almost like if we force it you know, artificially, you know, prematurely, we almost haven't gathered what's required to go through that next part of the initiation and be ready for the fire that sometimes we end up in and needs to burn away. So I really love that piece, that there's a forcefulness, but when it's ready, it happens.
Right.
And we touch that deeper intimacy. And also, you know, as you spoke, that second piece with the medicine woman, you know, there's so many dots that join up, you know. And I think people also struggle with this. They're like, I don't quite understand this, and I don't understand that. It's okay. In time, those moments will come where everything's like ding, 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 and all the light bulbs go off, and you're like, whoa, I have been around this for a long time, and I thought I understood it, but I didn't quite understand it. It's almost like the knowledge of it maturing into wisdom, having the lived experience of it, it becomes real and tangible and understandable and digestible, and we can actually land with it and go, whoa, like this just became something entirely new. So I really love that you've brought those pieces to the table. So I feel like that's really fitting for a lot of people.
The question is like, where is the agenda rooted? You know, it's rooted in I am not enough here. Like what is here is not okay. It's broken. And so if we're like relating to ourselves from that place, it's not loving. And
it's like a violence towards self.
Yeah, it's cruel. It's when like in my work, which is all to do with honesty through feeling. When we really feel, get intimate with the root of agenda, it's cruel. And it hurts. There's this the simplicity of letting go of agenda or honoring myself exactly where I am in this moment, whether that is completely contracted and everyone else in the room is like opening, having it, like that is the key.
It's liberating.
That is liberation. But everyone's searching, like all me included, for the liberation outside when it's just like all you have to do is honor yourself exactly where you are. And then that contraction or that suffering or that whatever it is will take on a seasonality. It'll soften. I could talk so long, so much about this piece.
You know, and I love the piece on agenda. It's genius actually, because it's so genius.
It's intelligent.
Because when you're right. When I think of you and your work, because we've spent time at Wyballina and you've worked at Wyballina, which is such a beautiful, you know, I love that place. Bella ran a retreat at Wyballina last year?
This year and last year.
Sorry, yep.
Both years. Yeah.
So I get the image of being in the room with the many groups that we've had in our rights work, and I can see the actual tone of agenda like spread through, and myself, you know, of if it goes so unseen though.
Yes.
And I think that's what's genius about it, of like becoming a little bit more open to the idea that the way that we're approaching ourselves for, you know, whether it's self-empowerment or self-love or self-healing, there's a strong lean to firstly me and self, and therefore an idea about a, sorry, it's a big thread. It's
Yes,
like a
yes.
separation of, which creates a wrong right, which then leads to
Yes.
I must write it.
Yes.
So there's the agenda behind it. So there's the, yeah.
Yes.
Is that making sense to everyone?
Yes. Totally.
And so it's like just finding that tone in the system. It's like if we can, even without agenda, to find the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Like the awareness that is a permeating force. Honestly, if I sit back and look, it's very collective, like just a way in which we approach our self, or a way in which we approach our life is infused with agenda.
Completely.
From such a young age too, you know. You look at the schooling system, it's agenda. We learn to perform, to regurgitate, and then we base our, you know, our intelligence off that, whether I'm succeeding or I'm failing. This carries through, you know. We don't, I think it's really nice to touch those points, because sometimes we don't realize how far back this comes, that, you know, the core of that comes from. Then we try to perform, we try to fit in, we try to be like others, because we don't also like that feeling that we often pick up from a young age of being left out, right? Of being on the outside, of not being enough, not being smart enough, good enough, fit enough, whatever it may be. It does carry into our, you know, adult lives, and it influences so many things, you know, in the work environment, in family environment, in so many environments. So it's nice to, you know, just to bring these things to the table so people consider and have a look and inquire into it and feel into it, you know.
Just feeling how all of this is rooted in our fear to be enough, like our fear to be ourself, our refusal to be ourself. And so this intelligent mechanism, which is, this is wrong, which you touched on, like there is a shoulding, there is an image and an identity of what is a good me, an enough me, that is not actually me. And in relating to myself through agenda, I am always staying stuck.
Perpetually dissatisfied.
Perpetually dissatisfied. Yes. And really, like, often I say at the beginning of any workshop or retreat, like, there is no agenda here. If there was any agenda, it would be to be honest, which you kind of touched on. Can you get honest? And it requires vulnerability, of course, and courage to get honest about our refusal. Not just aware, like when I say honest, not just aware because we are so aware of ourselves, but intimate on a felt level with, I don't want to be me. I'm scared to be me. I am scared to be enough because I'm scared to feel.
I'm just going.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so huge.
I two things. One, if we come back to them, great. If not, it's okay. One of them that's just kind of sitting is the extra, for those who, you know, who of us are called, get pushed, are shoved in the deep end, dive into first tending to ourselves and then being called to tend to others, whether or not we want to or not.
Right.
The agenda piece strengthens. It like amplifies, in my opinion, from my perspective, because we, you know, I went to university, I went to high school, and I, from 14 years old, I decided I would be a radiation therapist, and I chose my subjects.
Right.
And I worked, like it directed the choice of everything. How many jobs I worked, what sport I gave up, how much time I spent with my boyfriend, how like it directed my entire life, how much I studied. I started drinking coffee to study in 12, like Nescafe.
It's amazing. The mind is amazing.
You know, and I got there and I studied and I graduated and, you know, and then within 18 months I was like, I'm out of here. But it was a beautiful brush up against the work that it comes in very handy now. What I was exposed to in that world, and led me here ultimately. But for me, something that I have felt recently change, and if not all the words are coming out and there's bits missing of context, just ask me. But recently, my partner's a chiropractor, and he gave me an adjustment a few days ago, and I had 3 different adjustments than I've ever had before, and I cried.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a shift in the system. It's a shift in the physical tone. And I felt those adjustments change, and I felt the shift inside of me. And obviously we're so in tune, and he knew, and he's just like, how you feeling, darling? I was like, I'm so happy. Because recently what has been really dissolving, I guess, or shifting from the inside is a perspective of, it's a variation of feeling not like I don't belong. Just another variation of that. I grew up in a family where my parents split up when I was little, and so, and the story goes, my mother didn't want another child. She fell pregnant with me, and she was an alcoholic, and there was bits and pieces in that. So, but that was the message that was given to me. It wasn't like she didn't say that to me. It was just the deliberate message. And for a long time I was like, yeah, but she has her life and all those different things. And then my stepmom came in, and she had her own stuff and didn't really like me. And then we were lower, and so she didn't have a lot of money. So my friends always had the really nice clothes or the nice cars, and we didn't. And there was always ways where I was just a little bit different or a little bit out. You know, even on holidays, we would go to grandparents' houses that weren't mine. So I was just different because I wasn't the actual grandchild, but I was there because I was the step, you know.
Right.
And I hadn't thought about it influencing my sense of belonging. Sounds silly now, but only recently have I felt it shift in a way where I realized how much it shaped my longing to belong. It wasn't I want to belong, but just a undercurrent of angst of do I? And instead of collapsing into I don't, I postured into, well, I'll create it. I will belong, and I'll create this, and I'll create that, and I'll create myself into doing that. And it has followed me, through everything I've done, and just seeing another layer of that right now. And I have been teaching for many years, and I've studied for many years, and I've facilitated for a long time. And my point is that I think it is so thick.
Right, yes.
It's so thick, and it's so here. And I wonder how many people are listening thinking, I don't have that.
Exactly, yeah.
And how far away that might be, but also the very thing that maybe we could turn to, particularly if we're in the realm of wanting to be in service, because there's a posture to that. Because we go and get certified, or we become a practitioner of, and we place a title. I mean, on Instagram, you can just self-title. So, and then I have to live up to that. So it just feels a lot heavier, a lot clunkier, a lot denser, a lot more fear behind, like paranoia behind it of am I? It's like agenda comes in with the paranoia of comparison. Like those two feel like they're, cousins just high-fiving each other in the background of like, fuck yeah, we got them. They'll never be satisfied in themselves. But I think it's the thing that keeps us away from being really with the people we want to be with. That's my point on the table.
Yes.
It's that creates so much distance, because the profile of being someone, I'm helping, or I'm this, or I'm becoming that, and even if they're the kindest, most humble, whatever, it's just in our culture. you know. So I think it's such a beautiful thing to turn to explore. Yeah, I mean, we could go anywhere.
Yeah, and it's like, I agree that so many people are not, I guess, honest enough to, or intimate enough with themselves to admit that, oh yeah, there's what's actually driving this, or is there a part of me that feels deficient that I'm not wanting to look at, and where I was going to go with this.
I'm curious as to the way in which you, something that stands out for me in your work is your distinction between feeling and emotion. And I think it's a really important thing to touch on, because there's a lot of vocabulary and a lot of conversation about staying with your feelings or just being with the feeling. And instead it becomes like a mental masturbation or a collapsing into or identification with. So can you explore that with us a bit?
I love that. Yeah, and again, like, it's just words. You can put on whatever words you want, but the way that I distinguish feeling and emotion is, feeling is the irreducible, pure kind of aliveness that we meet in our hearts. Yeah, there is no story attached to it. There is no meaning. It's visceral. Emotion is a reaction to, a relationship to feeling, rooted in history, rooted in or with the purpose of reinforcing our sense of self.
Can you break that down a bit?
Yeah. So, if I have a belief that I am not worthy of love, some specific aspect of me is not worthy of love, I will invest in that belief. Yeah. So something happens. I'm here with you, and for some reason I get insecure, and that whether I'm conscious or not, because a lot of these times the investment, the believing is happening unconsciously, but I'm investing in this belief, I am not worthy of love. And that then that investment has a response in my nervous system. Whether I get arrogant and like put myself above you, when really underneath is I'm not worthy of this, but what I'm believing is I'm better than you, or whether I get really insecure and paranoid, or whether I burst into tears and get overwhelmed. Like, all of this is happening in the nervous system. Whereas if I meet you here and for something triggers my historic belief that I'm unworthy of love, feeling would look like, there's initially a trigger. Then the practice is, can I choose to stay in my body, in my heart, in my experience, not believing the content? And that's the practice. Very simple, but we are so intelligent in the ways that we seduce ourselves away from pure, and that staying with, I'm unworthy, might bring up some historic grief that I wasn't safe to feel, and my capacity to stay has to do with how safe I am. Do you have a question?
Safety is such a contextual thing for so many people, right? Like a sense of safety. And I would agree. And I would say, and I'm going with my own experience, I would say in the moments I have to stay, I don't feel safe. Like I'm like this, everything here is saying this is not safe, this is not safe, this is not safe. So I'm like, I have nowhere, I'm not pointing to anything, I'm just wondering, like, so in a way it's our development of that within the experience It's finding the safety within the staying.
Right.
The staying becomes safe, but it's a rewiring. You would,
yes,
in a way, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it's not my opinions about how safe I am.
My idea of safety.
Yeah, it's not my idea of safety. It's how vital am I to choose Bella first, to choose to stay in my experience. How vital am I? How available is it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's it. It's like the thread through everything. Every piece of work. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're an artist, if you're a chiropractor, 'cause it's close to home. If you're a or you're working under shamanism, or you're a breathwork practitioner, or you're a doctor, or you're a nurse. Like, staying is ultimately the foundation of all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's rooted, I feel like, that place of cultivating and establishing a relationship with ourselves produces an inner safety.
Yes.
I feel safe within myself, and I'm not going to run away from myself. I'm not going to turn on myself. I'm not going to turn my back on me when I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like, like a child, you're thinking the boogeyman's in the house and running out the front and running out the street and running away from it. It's like we're essentially running away from our own sanctuary, our own home, to feel safer. But that's not safe.
Right.
That is your sanctuary. Yes. That is your home. You command safety. You look into the dark crevices and realize there isn't anything. It was just a phantom within your own mind, that there was something to be afraid of. And that, in fact, the safest place for you was your own home, was your own body, was your own sanctuary. It's the sanctum that comes into a clear perception. I touched that place through meditation and come to see that my safest place was within myself, and that I could draw upon safety and protection and security within myself only through visiting that time and time again, being there, being uncomfortable but not bailing. Right? What was running from going to assist me with? I come home and the boogeyman's still there. I need to confront my fear. I need to look at my fear. I need to look at why I'm turning my back on myself. Right? And often a person that is feeling that lack of safety within themselves, or doesn't have that rapport and relationship with self, will also project on others, needing protection from others and security from others, which is an unreliable source.
Also unsustainable.
Right? Unreliable.
Yeah.
And not only is it unreliable and unsustainable for safety, but for love, right? For clarity, all of these things, we tend to look outside of ourselves to someone else to provide for us. And I think this is the work that, we're deeply touching in iSōma and with our practitioners, is that we need to establish this relationship with self and take people through those initiating portals to face the fear and have support there, right? To have all of those tools that can ready us to get the flashlight, to go into all the corners, all the rooms, all the cupboards, and realize there's nothing to be afraid of, and tend to the sanctuary, tend to the home, reposition things, remove the clutter, clean it, refresh it, make it, again, a place that is holy and you don't want to run away from. Then we stop being so relying on others to provide something that only we can truly ever provide for ourselves. And we come into such a deep enrichment there in touching that, because everyone else was only ever giving you crumbs of protection, crumbs of love, like just little bits. When we come back here, as you touched on before, that wholeness, I am not broken. I am not incomplete. I am whole. I am complete. I am beautiful. I am valuable. I am intelligent. I am powerful just as I am.
Yes.
with all my quirks, with all my oddness, with all of my color, with all of my story, with all of my marks and scars and everything I deemed not beautiful. It's fucking fantastically gorgeous. Right?
But that's what we're scared of, how gorgeous we are. How vast
Exactly
we
that.
I'd love to just, I've seen you write about this a little bit more lately, the actual fear of of our goodness, the fear of that vastness.
Yes.
Because it's, I think it's something to play within the mind, but not really let land. Can you speak to it a little bit more in a way where people might be able to
Let it land in the body. I mean, what comes to me now, I'm just going to follow this, is the exploration of saying out loud, I am enough, right? So either one of two things will happen. There'll be a resonance. Again, we're not looking for this kind of confirmation in the mind. We're looking for a resonance in the body. I'm enough. Can I stay intimate with that enoughness, even if there's seductive beliefs? No, but what about this? And no, but except for that, can I stay intimate with that? Or does that statement, and I'm here not encouraging you to say it as some kind of attempt to convince yourself of being enough, but just as an exploration of what comes up when I say I'm enough, does that statement bring up history, emotion? When I say I am enough, does it expose where I've held on to the belief that I'm not enough? That's just a kind of something that comes to me.
You're triggering a somatic experience for them to,
And sometimes I'm enough to really stay intimate in the body. You'll notice that there's a bit of, there's an edge. To own that I am enough might mean I have to let love into somewhere where I have not yet let love in. What will happen then? I will open. So you can explore, I'm scared to let love in, or I'm scared to be enough. And that starts to give you a little bit more of a relationship with you being in charge of, like, your hands on the belief that I am not enough. Oh, I am scared to be enough, to eventually and love yourself there. Just relentlessly and ferociously love yourself scared to be enough, till eventually one day, not through force, but you will be courageous enough to be enough in the places that you were once terrified to be enough. And I think the thing we're scared of the most is being okay as we are. Because if we are okay, if I am okay as I am, if I am enough, then I'm free.
Yeah. There's no, we run into this a lot.
I've often explored this with people and taught on those points of the things we're most afraid of is not actually the shadow, but it is our brilliance. Right? And there's a passage in the journey that we face the shadow. We conquer the boogeyman, right? But we realize that wasn't really the hard work. That accepting our brilliance is, because it's so magnificently enormous. It's so powerful, so beautiful.
It contradicts like the perpetual wrong, the perpetual looking for something. Like we have nothing, and we lose a whole, like the point of so many people's lives is gone now.
Well, eventually there's no problem to be solved. Then we move into the mystery to be lived.
There's no purpose. Yes.
I'd love to. We've touched on so many beautiful pieces there. I would love to hear from you, like, your work. What does that look like with movement, with like touching that brilliance and moving through the shadow into that brilliance? what does that look like? How do you take people through that? What, like, can you paint a picture for us?
Yeah,
can I throw something into that?
Yeah.
Just to complicate it.
Yeah.
Remembering that we're putting it through the lens of those who want to support. So you have to add that extra layer. Right? And in that, there's probably just going to be a lot more agenda in it. Because I think that's the thing that we want people to be able to do, is to be with that within themselves.
Yes.
And so few, I mean, I personally think I have to continually practice to stay. Like, I'm not.
Totally.
You know? So it's just with that lens.
Great.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, what comes to me now that you asked that question, it's a different way to answer, is essentially what I'm passionate about is supporting people to be themselves, right? And there's different layers we can speak to that on. There's if I really drop into what I'm talking to here, it's supporting, yes, the cultivation of safety, which ultimately is my availability to choose me first, rather than my nervous system being in charge. Like, in any moment, I'm either choosing consciously from a bit deeper part of myself, or my history is in charge. My history is choosing. I'm in habit. And the work that I offer is kind of strengthening the muscle of consciously choosing. So there's more kind of me here, me first here, rather than habit playing out. When I am me first, when I am choosing Bela first, I am not in control of what shows up. I am surrendered to who and what I am.
It's so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's vulnerable. Yes. And my only job is, can I stay, which essentially is, can I love me? Staying is the absence of next, the absence of judgment, the absence of agenda. It's meeting what is here, whether it's nervousness or anxiety or anger or whatever shows up. Can I surrender? Can I humbly surrender to who I am, rather than, like what we were speaking to before, having some pressure, some pressure to be someone I am not. Which is anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So can I surrender to who and what I am, which of course is a journey of many things. Surrendering control, feeling what I haven't wanted to feel, loving and forgiving myself where I haven't wanted to love and forgive myself, taking responsibility where I haven't wanted to take responsibility. To kind of come back to, then how does that support a facilitator? It's ultimately when you are anchored in the love that you are, when you are being you are naturally, without doing anything, sharing the love that you are, sharing your love, which is sharing your gifts, sharing your brilliance, sharing your, and I think that's where, like, that's, if I'm being met by a facilitator or a guide, that's where I want to be met from, right? Yeah. It's you are being you, and I trust that, and I want that, and then the beauty there is then the unique medicine of everyone, right?
Yes.
There's not this cookie cutter kind of what is that? Yeah.
Facsimiles and
and that excites me, like everyone coming into their own unique flavor of the love that they are.
Oh, that is sweet. but like also big.
It's
like
big,
sweet,
yeah.
but you know, I would, as you're speaking, something that I was feeling is the, oh gosh, you know, we've had the real privilege, I would say, like, of being exposed to so many different people in rites of passage work, like police officers, ambulance officers, like just so many different walks of life and people in very important roles, like they get to breaking points and then go, fuck, I gotta do something. Well, I've tried all the things. One of these guys, you know, sometimes they come in guns blazing because they're, you know, it's an alignment, but honestly, like, you get like that 30% or that 20% who are like, I don't know what else the fuck to do, so I'll go here. And, you know, at least they've got the courage. And what I love about that and what they have taught me is that so much of what humanity needs, of what we need as individuals, not just the people, you know, we're just talking about human beings here, is just sincere, unguarded, honest relating. The medicine of that. And so for us, that's why we're so grateful for you to say yes to come in and teach this to practitioners, because from our perspective, Curdy, welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking for you here, that if we don't have that down pat, if we're not aware of the ways in which we avoid ourselves or the ways that we distract ourselves from being with ourselves, then we don't have the capacity to really be with someone in our vulnerability, because there's an idea of who I have to be when I'm with someone. So I'm protecting my responses. I'm hiding. I'm hiding because I'm trying to make sure that I'm a certain way. Whereas we believe there's, of course, a certain level of respect in, but that doesn't mean that you have to hide your humanity. Right. You can still be influenced.
Yes.
And let that be a part of the process. Like, let their field, let their spirit, let yours create another field between you, and let that guide whatever it is, whether or not you're a doctor or a nurse or you're adjusting, you're an artist or you're an activist, whatever. But that you're a conscious participant in the field, as opposed to being subjective, objective, critical analysis in the experience with someone. Like, I'm guessing you don't have a formula that you place upon each person that walks in.
No.
Yeah. And so it brings the human spirit back into what we do. And it's really beautiful just to have the echo of the simplicity of what's needed. Because I think we overcomplicate everything. Me, personally speaking, overcomplicate everything, and therefore take away the love that we are. We take away the expression of that love that we actually are, the genius that's actually underneath that. And what I hear you saying in this is that, like, the medicine is that expression first and foremost. And I think understanding and appreciating that, if you're wanting to, you know, whether it's guiding your children better or being a closer friend, being able to listen. Ultimately, that presence with self is the foundation. Did you have a question?
I just loved that conscious participation piece. I think two main gems there in that, what you just said around consciously participating and living by example, like being it. Because conscious participation gets us to be more aware and present in our lives, in all of the movements of our felt experience, lived experience. Like, we're really with ourselves if we're consciously participating. And as a practitioner, if we're expecting others to come into that, we have to be it.
Yeah.
And if someone is that, if somebody's lived it and is walking it, not just talking it,
Yes.
but is it, it's so much easier to transmit because you're bearing witness to it from the other side. Right? I've taught meditation for like 15 odd years now, and work the healing arts and work with children all the way up to 100-year-old people. I had to be it. If I was trying to instill silence in others
Right.
and teach them how to be in that place of no mind,
Yes.
I couldn't just teach
Right.
meditation
Right.
and say, yeah, just drop your thoughts. I had to be no mind. I had to give them a mirror that they could see it, a doorway in which they could walk through to experience it, a cup in which they could drink from to taste it. How could I ever expect them to come into that if I was talking on, finding that place of serenity and peace and tranquility within? I had to be it, right? And when you become it and you are a walking, living, breathing example of it in your greatest degree of impeccability, it transmits. You hold it in your aura, you transmit it through every thought, every word, every action. You become it in the world. And even when people are not looking for it, that it's available. It's available to everyone all the time. You're not just it in a clinical setting or in your particular field of set and setting.
Right.
You are it behind closed doors when nobody's watching. You are it on the stage in front of 10,000 people. You are it with every client, with every person. Right? To be it, to live it, to walk it, and not just talk it. This, right, it takes mastery, it takes refinement, it takes time. And this is what I am inviting people in, and this is what I'd love to pay forward to those that wish to deepen that piece as a facilitator, is how can we become more intimate with living it, with breathing it day in, day out, not just performing it and being something different when nobody's watching, but that it's there as a spirit, as a life force in us all the time, and we'll find whatever field of our expertise is in sharing with other human beings, it's going to dial itself 1,000 times more potently, because it doesn't have a gender. It's not a performance. It's not just there, and I feel like that's so important for people to realize. They may already be doing that. I'm not taking away from anyone in what they're doing and their capacity to do so, but I feel like all these conversations, this work is about how can we deepen that, how can we become it even more fully, how can it be in our blood, in our bones, how can we refine ourselves as artists and become true artists, like masterful artists in life, because it transmits. We're walking embodiment of it then into every environment, into the cafe when we get our coffee, into the shopping center, into the chaotic mall, into the place, into the marketplace, into our homes. Everyone receives when you are it. And I feel like your work, your walk, your way as well welcomes that. You can feel it when it's in somebody's heart, when they become it, right? And this is really that place of invitation. I want to invite people into that deeper intimacy with the thing itself.
What comes to me when I listen to you is there's an aliveness to that constant just letting go of who, I guess, my attachment to an identity, whether that's like the facilitator or my line of work, or I am always like happy, or whatever the attachment is. It's much easier to do that, but there's something in me that it feels like brittle, and it feels like hard, and it feels like stuck, and not alive. and there's something, it's more work to constantly come back to, but it's so much more relieving and fulfilling and generous to constantly come back to, how can I really be me here, and like, not my local self, not my identity, but how can I be in service to the love, I guess keep on saying, to the love that I am, and trust that is so generous. You know, trust that all I have to do here is not remember all the modules, or like the technique, or the like fixate on and how if I don't or if I do, that means something about me. Ultimately, that those are tools and they're supportive, but I'm feeling, and what you're sharing, like really the most important thing that's being here delivered, I think we're all in service to, is how can we support you to kind of let go of who you're not. And then there's an alive kind of channel for whatever we want to call it, spirit, love, the universe, to move through you.
If I'm really honest, like our shift into over the last couple of years is, well, first people asked, and there was like, can you help, you know, we want to learn what you do, and our constant response was, you can't do what we do. You're not us. Like, it's you know, it's not, this isn't both of us went on paths that look so very different, and so very you know, not even great on paper, like you know, unconventional is the word I was looking for. Thank you, brain. Comes in handy.
It does.
And so there was, you know, I felt resistance for some time. Kurt was probably just waiting for me, which he always is, to catch on to what's happening next.
I didn't have anywhere to be.
I was going to say patiently waiting.
So patient. Sometimes I look back years later, I'm like, why didn't you? And he's like, the only time he's ever gotten impatient with me was a really terrible relationship, and he even swore, and I was like, oh, okay. But it was a difficult thing to imagine when I still feel like such a student, and am such a student, to teach, and so it's probably a prime time to say, and you know, we say it, but I still feel like people don't hear it, that like walking this, whether it's with you, with anyone, the idea to become something more, like to do this to become something more, it needs to be put, like that is not it. That is the opposite. That is not what we're doing here. If you come for that, you will be severely disappointed. And our students get pissed with us because we'll go off track and be like, we can't move on to that thing because we're not here yet.
Yeah.
Like, I know you want the technique, I know, but it doesn't actually matter. And we're constantly, forget it. And we actually rewrote ISōma because people were still, even though we said it's not a certificate, it's not this, they're still like, but what's the steps? And we're like, I get it. No, like, you're not getting it, because there aren't any. There are some frameworks of things that we can look at, and some beautiful universal principles, and universal law. Other than that, the whole point is to listen to the moment and respond to that, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're, again, if you're working in allied health, or you're coming in through more corporate world, it's a completely flip on the head. Like, I came from medicine, and I went in, you know, dipped my toe in corporate, so I know what it's like to. The agendalessness is just crazy, and we have Uncle Morris coming in, who's a beautiful Yinwin Aboriginal man, and he's so wonderful in so many ways, but I laugh because he Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Oh, well, sorry, Uncle. He's come to me off the back end of calls at work. He works with Westmoreton Health, and he's I think the director at the moment, or acting director for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in Westmoreton Health. And he's such a beautiful, like, deeply full-hearted man. And he comes off and he's like, oh, sorry, you know, white men in their enders, I was late for my meeting. It's just like there's, you know, the way that he's just so in his heart all of the time, in deep presence, you know, from his culture is like they have something called dadiri, and it's about listening, but they don't have a word for silence in their language. Silence is your ability to listen to the unseen.
Deep listening.
Deep listening is dadiri. So, but it's not a listening as in, you know, and it's not a silence as in nothing. It's the capacity to be able to hear, like, the animate world, and to listen to that, and that's really, I guess, the root or the key of it, and and I just think if we can appreciate that my greatest teachers have always been the ones who don't give me the answer.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if we can appreciate that aspect of, you know, listening to being called to be of service in the world, whoever it is, just check in that they're not saying this is it. Yes. This is exactly how, these are the rules, you can, you can't, like respect, relating, but other than that, like, you know, there needs to be a cultivation of a deeper listening to not abandon self in the moment, so that you can hold that, you know, in all of the moments when those we being called to want to be with and support in, you know, a small way, when they can't, we can, you know, and so it's got to be a practice and a daily one. Many times a day for me.
Yes.
And and it is liberating. It's so liberating to unlearn. And there's a way that we integrate story into it and myth into it by one of our other practitioners, and the teachings of story and the teachings of myth talk about how now we study, and then we get the test. You know, so we learn wisdom, learn, well, we learn, get a test. But everything else in the whole world, everything is test, walk the challenge, wisdom. And so
learning comes later.
So good. Yeah, I often say, like, you don't have to remember any, if I'm teaching, because you know, the work it's mostly experiential, but sometimes there'll be teaching points, and I'm kind of like, this is here as like a handrail, but if you don't remember anything, that's fine. Like, you don't need to remember or know any of this in order to journey deep into yourself.
You've just started the retreats for the Embodying Heart a couple of years ago. Like, it's a new development of the work you do, because you used to do an 8-week program and then an 8-month program and then the retreat. Yeah. And you've got one coming up actually in the UK. Yeah. Not one in Australia this year? Not another one?
Not another one this year. Some in the US in September. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Good season, September. Yeah. Why the development into retreats? Like, what is it about the embodied heart that wanted to evolve into those spaces? Like, what is it that you're doing in those intimate spaces with people in the work that you're doing? Like, what does it look like? What's it?
Yeah. Beautiful question. I mean, there's something that can't be replicated about, you know, spending 5-6 days together, from the morning into the evening, with the kind of the field all choosing honesty, choosing kindness, choosing to stay. It's much more apparent where we are wanting to leave, where we are refusing to feel or to be vulnerable, or where we're being cruel. Like there's just a kind of like a big flashlight on everything, and it can be deeply uncomfortable. I mean, it is uncomfortable for everyone in the unique way that it's uncomfortable for them. But yeah, for me, it's so much. It's easier to do online, of course. It's like there is an ease, but the impact of being together in person is, I don't want to say it's better, but it's rich, and it provides a very kind of solid imprint in the body, to be in that space with others, to be in body, to feel together, to be in the lunch breaks together and continue to practice, and to watch where, as soon as we go into a break, all my habitual kind of personality avoidant tactics come back in, and so it's also, the work that I do, it's so supportive to be in the relational field, right? It's not about deepening in relationship, but that is a byproduct. That's a bonus, So it's, if I'm here with you, it's often in this kind of social space that all of my little again, avoidant mechanisms come up, right? Whether I shut down a little bit, or overemphasize something, or talk to fill up space, or whatever it is, the practice that is invited is, okay, can I choose to stay here, and you are choosing to stay with you, and again, then can I get honest? I'm really simplifying, but can I get honest about whether, I'm terrified to be here with you, to be me here with you, or I'm really excited and I don't know why, or you're triggering something from my father, or like, can I practice being me in this relational field? And what I mean by being me is again, not just being honest about my habits in terms of, awareness, but can I be intimate? Can I drop into my body and say, if I'm scared, not just report that to you, like I look down at the weather of my system and kind of communicate that to you so that you understand me, but can I be scared? Or can I be in my resistance and choose to honor, to, like, the way I define honesty in the work is honoring exactly where I am through feeling. And it's so much more supportive to do this. We need each other. Like, to do it alone is not possible.
It's so it's just so immensely needed. It's just so immensely needed. And words don't really cut it for the quality of what you're gifting to people in that experience, and the intensity of which people will have to stay with for such long periods of time, because it's just so exposing. It's so highlighting, exposing, vulnerable. And so the humility needed. I always, it's humbling. It's humbling. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
But also liberating as shit.
The humility to be me. To one other thing I say often is, like, the choices I am making is who and what I am, right, in each moment. So we can often kind of, like, judge or criticize or the choices that we are making, and kind of attempt to, like, will ourselves to a different choice. Like, I'm reaching for the chocolate bar again and again. How fucking idiot. Like, don't do that. Choose the carrot. Silly example, but rather than that, which is works for some people, but if what is driving that reaching for the chocolate is deep in the body, historic, that kind of willing you might stop eating the chocolate, but that habit will pop up in some other form, right? So here it's, can I get intimate with myself as I am making, can I get intimate with the root of that choice? I'm reaching for the chocolate. Oh, maybe I'm terrified. Maybe I don't want to feel. Maybe I hate myself here. I don't know, but an intimacy with what's actually driving that, rather than trying to change it, and then just loving myself there. And I always say love will do the work. You don't have to try to change yourself. Just love yourself where you are, and love will do the work.
It's so beautiful, and I know it will come across because of, like, I can feel it through you. And for how long the Pinterest, like, love yourselves have been there, which give it a, you know,
fluffy
and over the top of, like, it's like an over the, you know, well, you just have to do that. Well, it's, if I was to enact love yourself, it would be like, it's like, you know, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, can I really stay that open for that long? And like, do I
totally.
like that? That is more of a, you know, and I just wanted to express that.
Yeah, that's good that you said that. That's true. Yeah,
I feel what you're saying.
Yes.
And it is it. I can, your wisdom is, God, it's so deep and sincere, and clarification that it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Because there can be obviously a bypass in, I just love myself here. It's that's not what that's excusing and kind of a fluffy, shallow relationship to what's happening. It's not honest. And I often avoid saying love yourself, especially at the start of a container, because of this exactly. Just stay there without judgment, without agenda. Stay there, allow what's happening. And loving myself doesn't mean liking what's happening. Exactly like what you said. It's like you're not necessarily enjoying what's happening, but you are choosing to stay. And that's what's loving, and choosing not to back to the kind of all the way at the start of the conversation, like I'm not staying because I'm trying to kind of like get something out of me. I'm not feeling my grief because I want to get rid of it. I'm feeling my grief because it's loving, and I'm welcoming it into my being.
Because it's the truth, is what I hear you saying. Right. Like I can hear you behind that saying, because that's what the truth is. Yes. It's like we're just constantly telling the truth by being with it. That's kind of what I'm. Yes. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So feeling is a way to tell the truth.
Feeling is a way to tell the truth. Exactly.
I like that.
Yes. Yes. Especially when you get underneath the lies, which is what is emotion.
I was about to say, I wonder if we can just do one, like,
circle back
to the difference
between feeling and emotion.
Go for it. Or even the nuance of staying with, because our language around this is only slightly different because of the just sometimes the science I go back into with the nervous system stuff and polyvagal theory and things like that around the sensations of things,
right?
Like the feelings and the sensations of the staying with the experience of it. But when we come into emotion, it's like it's a different realm. We kind of call it like a different layer. And the way that you explain it with history is so beautiful. It's makes it really tangible, something that we can't differentiate. So when you're saying, like to stay.
Yes.
What's the difference between like feeling the feeling
Mm-hmm.
and staying with the feeling? Or do you know what I'm...
Staying with the feeling or getting lost in the emotion?
Yeah.
The simple...
How do you know?
The simple answer is someone is consciously choosing to stay in their experience, or choosing rather than... So the you could say presence is in service to engaging with the experience rather than in service to believing or disassociating or looping in a narrative about when I was 3 and my dad wasn't there, and that's you know, like I am present and purely engaged with the visceral experience.
Yep.
As soon as I am in thought, as soon as I am a memory comes up, as soon as my nervous system takes over and I'm overwhelmed and I'm not me first, but it looks like I'm feeling, but my nervous system is first. So somewhere I am believing that this is too much, or I don't have the capacity, or I'm not enough. For example, in that instance of the nervous system becoming overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is not feeling. That is emotion. Yes, flooding. I also say, like, the heart will never feel too much. If I am staying, I will never overwhelm myself.
Yeah.
The heart, it will open to the amount that you are capable to stay and feel and metabolize the experience. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
I have so many more questions. I guess I just want to hand it to you for anything that's been touched or ruffled that you're like, oh, I'd love to just speak to that. Is anything unspoken that's been stimulated or activated in you since talking that you just want to share before we close?
Let's see where I go. I mean, you know, I know that I have a gift in this work, and sometimes I feel like the communicating in a way that is digestible is like, oh, I hope, I trust, I want that to land. And I what that makes me want to say is, like, if anything, if the mind is like not grasping or if there's some any kind of tension or making yourself wrong or making us wrong or making me wrong, or like, my invitation here is to like, what a beautiful opportunity to feel what's going on for you.
To practice.
And like I said before, because there's so many ways I could go back and try to clarify and rehash, but I think that's like the biggest the kind of piece at the end is really all of this is an attempt to support the simple practice of coming back here, choosing to stay, choosing not to know, and allowing and welcoming, and that piece around choosing not to know, which you kind of touched on in your own language, is like a big part of the work, right? It's okay. So listening to a podcast sometimes can be that want to know can be very strong, and more than that, the experience or the opportunity to get intimate with not knowing is invaluable. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So deep, you know? Like, probably at least 80% of my life was like, well, maybe not that much, but a lot.
Yeah.
Or at least I love what you said, local self.
Yeah.
Local stuff. It's like, I would love to learn. You know, I studied a lot.
Yeah.
And I had to grapple, you know, probably when I met Kurt, grapple with not knowing.
Yeah, I feel he would be good for that.
He's so good for that. Oh, you know.
Give her anything to hold on to.
Nothing. We'd sit and talk for hours and hours and hours and ask him a million questions, and he patiently answered them but told me nothing.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to, anyone who is like, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like it's just that, for me, that part was in such security to know and understand. It was just a deep security of like, it was one of the ways that I reached out, gripped onto life and was like, I'm safe as long as I know.
Yes.
I'm safe as long as I understand here. And so I have a deep compassion and empathy for the agenda behind it, but also how rocking like to the system it is to just open to not knowing that. Like I've sweat over not knowing. I've like shaken over not knowing. I've like felt nauseous over not knowing. I've panicked over not knowing. So it's not you know, I think people throw around you just like to be in control. Yeah, I fucking do.
Totally.
There's a reason for that. And a deep compassion for the part that wants to be in control, because not having control was
death.
Deeply, death, but so incredibly painful from such a fragile place.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's such a vulnerability in that not knowing. And so if you're facing that, I salute you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a real threshold, that place. There's no hiding behind that anymore. I also want to say that your wisdom around the ancient practice of astrology and the stars and what they can teach us, and the energies and the archetypes. I don't know if you would say archetype, but those archetypes is brilliant. And I know it's not a huge amount of your work, but in some really, really difficult moments of my life, I would be like, Bella, it's already the full moon. Where's your post? Like, and I would wait, and my partner and I'd be like, Bella, post it, come on, let's go sit on the back deck. And we'd sit there and we'd read a line, and then we'd go, and it really was so incredibly, because your language is somatic. You write from that place, you write from that very present place, so it reaches. And I just wanted to speak to that and honor that, because, you know, if this feels out of field, then that's always a place where people can go and maybe enter that world with you. It's such a I see the way that you don't let people identify with it, and you write in a way that is it's like the archetype in all of us is touched. And I feel that, and it's really been something that I've learned a lot through and had to be with, or got to have the opportunity to be with, because your work with astrology is always deeper invitation to feeling and looking and honesty. And I really am grateful for that. So I just wanted to let people know that exists too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I so enjoy, like, it's just, I have so much pleasure in writing and exploring astrology and looking through that lens and using that language, and all in service to everything that we've been speaking to. But there's something like, okay, now let's like zoom in and you know, the beauty of the cycles and the archetypes, and kind of I am a Pisces, so I can very much like sit in a very zoomed out perspective, and so it's nourishing for me to look through that lens, and I also see how much of it supports others. So yeah, it's nice to hear.
Yeah, it has. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, darling.
Yeah.
There's so much more we could speak to, but I think
We're at time.
Yeah.
And we also touched on so much for people to be with, to feel, and so many invitations there, so many gems on the table. So just really appreciate having you here today. Thank you for sharing your heart and serving humanity and bringing forth all that goodness, darling. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed being here. Yeah.
It's so grateful.
Could talk for a long time.
Oh, we could just sip tea and keep on going.
We can do it again.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Yeah. To integrate the way that you work and the way that you weave, and to the gift that you are to our people, honestly. Like to the people who want to walk with us and are trusting us, and just gosh.